By the end of 1949, Japan began a new purge, the Red Purge, to root out the communists SCAP had set free 4 years before.
There is a bird called the tanchozu. It's a sacred crane with a red head and a white body. That bird was like the Japanese labor movement. The leadership was red, but not the body. The rank-and-file workers were rather moderate. So when the red head was chopped off, the labor movement lost its radical direction.
Japanese managers also used the Red Purge in their battle against labor unions.
I was not a communist, but I came close to being purged because I was a union leader. During the Red Purge, many people who were not communists lost their jobs simply because they took a hard line toward management.
Official policy toward labor unions had changed. When the Toho Movie Union tried to occupy the studio and run it themselves, the police broke down the studio gates. They were backed up by American tanks and airplanes. With the unions in check, the U.S. sent a new emissary to remake Japan's economic policy. On February 1st, 1949, a Detroit banker named Joseph Dodge arrived in Tokyo. He was given total authority to fix Japan's economy. To Dodge, the main problem was obvious: inflation. Money was losing its value. For this, Dodge had a simple banker's solution: balance the budget. Inflation stopped dead in its tracks.
I still remember 10 months after Dodge policy put into effect, there was a newspaper news that some burglars took money instead of goods, which Mr. Dodge was visibly pleased to know the story, that money is now getting some worth.
But for workers, the cure seemed worse than the disease. Dodge had cut government subsidies to balance the budget. Without government funds, thousands of firms went bankrupt. In 1949, public and private companies laid off over 2 million workers. Union leaders were the first to go. Economic conditions inflamed political passions. Newspaper headlines were filled with news of mysterious murders and political sabotage. The Yoshida government promised recovery, but the Dodge line was mocking his promises of economic prosperity. Yoshida called it a gift from the gods. It was the Korean War. North Korea, backed by the Soviet Union, invaded South Korea, backed by the United States. The Americans bought their trucks and supplies from Japan. The Japanese called it divine aid.
That really boosted the Japanese economy, which had been under severe recession. So that I think the real success of Dodge policy was helped by this Korean War, no doubt about it.
For a country trying to rebuild, the infusion of cash from the Korean War effort was as important as giving milk to a baby.
The Korean War boosted the Japanese economy, but it also allowed the Japanese people to forget about what Japan did to Asia in World War II. It was the beginning of a new ethic in Japan. If it makes money, it's good.
Between 1950 and 54, the U.S. spent nearly $3 billion in Japan for military supplies. It was called the procurement boom. It jump-started Japan's economy and saved the regime of Shigeru Yoshida. In 1951, Prime Minister Yoshida flew to the United States to make a deal. Yoshida wanted Japan's independence. Americans wanted Japan to rearm and side with America in the Cold War.